What terrifying confession has someone told you while drunk? A coworker told me she went all angel of mercy and smothered her elderly, dementia-ridden grandmother while she was sleeping. The next Monday in the office was definitely a weird one after that particular happy hour confession. I worked in a hospital and an alcoholic guy the first knew from around my town came in. Of course he was very drunk, so he got a bed. He was homeless at this point. Just as he was starting to settle, he screamed. I slit his fucking throat. So I went up to him and asked him to settle, and he started telling me that he did it while in the army and could never forgive himself for it. Cried himself to sleep and died in the local park a few months later. Once at a college party, this big guy got upset, picked up the table and threw it across the room, shouting, "My uncle molested me." Everyone was terrified, but we all felt really bad for the guy. It was me who did the confessing. When I was 18, I was sexually assaulted on a bridge in the middle of the night when I was all alone. My mom works in hearing, and she had always told me to bite someone if I got into trouble, so I did. I bit into his neck until my teeth met again. He fell down, then I ran all the way home. A few weeks later, I read in the news that a serial assaulter had gone to the hospital with neck wounds and later died. They'd drawn it down to him attacking someone and them acting in self-defense. I never told anyone until I got really drunk with my boyfriend last year and spilled it. He couldn't believe I'd kept that secret. I have a friend whose grandmother married her late husband's friend. One day while drunk, he confessed to killing her first husband. She packed up the kids and left. My mom was in another state for business. A company flew her crew out to Texas to discuss a change in software and offered their company. And so it was just my dad taking care of me. I was about 10 and he came to tuck me in one night. But he has incredibly hammered. He opened the door to my bedroom. Told me I was a mistake that saved them from getting divorced and good night. Worst part is he didn't close the door completely when he left. I had a male friend tell me he had raped me once when I was passed out drunk. I'm a straight male and had been friends with this guy for 15 years and had been drunk with him a lot. Since then I have found out a lot of messed up stuff about him. My sister's boyfriend at the time told me he thought he might have fallen for the wrong sister. Doesn't compare to most of these. But my sister is my best friend. And I was so scared he might ruin that. Edit. Since a lot of people have asked. No. I never told my sister about it. Another edit. They broke up very shortly after this. Because he was untrustworthy in other ways, he stole some money. She kicked him to the curb. A friend of mine died from a drug overdose. After the funeral, a mutual friend of ours and I were getting drunk when he broke down crying. He asked me if I remembered the time when he and our dead friend told me about an accident that they'd witnessed where they saw a truck driver die. I told him I did. He then told me the most fucked up shit. He said that our friend ran up to the dying man and stole his wedding ring. And that the man couldn't do anything but look up, terrified, at our friend as he was being robbed. I knew they were bad into drugs, but I never thought they could do anything like that. I grew up with them. They were like my brothers. I don't really trust anyone completely anymore. Had a buddy tell me his friend drunkenly confessed to him that he had killed his stepdad and made it look like a suicide. His stepdad had been abusive towards him and his mom for years, and it finally broke when he made it look like his stepfather had hung himself in their garage. I don't know who the friend was. I was never given a name or much else of the story. I heard my mom tell her friend I was a mistake and the reason her and my dad divorced. That's why you don't eavesdrop. Haha. I put Adderall in your beer. We're gonna party till the sun comes up, bro. Went on a work doing my co-worker. A major stone-faced bland woman. Got pretty drunk. Ended up telling me she discovered her dad's body when he hung himself. Needless to say, I realized why she was the way she was after that. My ex told me that he had been molested by his sister between the ages of 6 to 11. She was 9 to 14. His dad walked in once and didn't do anything. His own family knew that he was being sexually abused for years and did absolutely nothing to protect him. If my ex were still in love with me, I wouldn't be married to you. Night before his wedding day. I'm still in love with C _______, but I'm still gonna marry F _______ tomorrow because it's too late now. I have two. I had a housemate in college, who several years prior, had accidentally shot and killed a friend of his in a hunting accident. He went to trial, and was acquitted of all charges. Years later, he didn't tell me, but he told a woman I was intimate with, that it wasn't an accident. Years ago, when I worked at the Las Vegas Hilton, in the main kitchen, I had a very high-strung boss named Hussein. He was from Turkey. We jokingly referred to him as insane, because of his personality. Once, after our shift was over, he grabbed a case of beer from the supply walk-in refrigerator and invited a few of us to help ourselves. He probably had 4 or 5 himself. He then proceeded to tell us that when he lived in Turkey, he had kicked some guy's ass and came to the US to get away. My coworkers and I really didn't give it too much thought. About a month later, we came to find out that while on vacation in Mexico, Hussein had been walking back to his hotel room after drinking at a bar. He had ducked down an alley to take a piss and was caught by a policeman. He was charged and convicted of public urination. At least at the time. The US didn't have reciprocity with Turkey, but Mexico did. Well, it turns out that what Hussein had described as kicking someone's ass turned out to be murder. He was taken back to Turkey, where we assume that he spent the rest of his life in a Turkish prison. The movie The Midnight Express portrays what life is like there. When I was 14, my mom took me and my sisters and a couple of our friends to the beach. My sister, 15, and I got our own room with our 2 friends and wound up meeting some boys and getting drunk. My sister's friend, 15F, was really drunk and got super upset and confessed that her stepfather had been sexually molesting her, raping her, for years. Really horrible stuff. It sobered everyone up fast. We rallied around her, told her we were there for her. Yada yada. But when we got home from the beach trip a few days later, I knew I needed to tell my mom. After I told my mom, she got the state police involved. There was a trial, and the man wound up sentenced to 8 years in prison. It turned out he was doing it to the younger sister as well. At a family gathering, my grandma got tipsy and started to tell stories from her childhood. While she does this every time, no matter tipsy or sober. Guess it's just a normal grandma thing. This time it took a dark turn. She told us a story that is the reason she hates to go to the dentist and particularly hates the drilling part. She told us a story about when she was 6 years old. During WW2, my family lived in Hamburg, Germany, right next to the harbor. During a particular week in 1943, the city was continuously bombed and over 35,000 people died and more than 100,000 people were injured. The houses that were hit mostly burned down, creating a huge fire with such force that I sucked not only oxygen in, creating strong winds, but also people. The fire created such heat that people running out of their burning houses got stuck in the molten asphalt on the streets and burned to death. As it was all happening around her, that particular smell was present for over a week in her part of the city. Drilling in your tooth creates exactly that smell. My grandma had to stop the dentist, as she recognized the smell immediately. This story shook us to the core, as it came out of the blue. It still sends chills down my spine. For anybody who wants to read more about it. Operation Gomorrah. Edit. If anyone wants to share their parents'-grandparents' story. After a work party, the wife of a colleague and me ended up being the last 2 people standing. We were both fairly drunk when she started telling me about how she was raped by a priest when she was a kid. The church covered it all up and the bastard never faced any charges. She told me she poisoned her abusive ex. A coworker was pretty inebriated when he told me that he hates his life, he hates his partner, and the only reason he's still married to her is because he loves his daughter and doesn't want to lose her. One of my best friends since middle school opened up to me the day we had our last day of high school. We had been partying all day. Got off at 10 a.m. But most people left at around 3 p.m. to go get ready for the seniors' dinner and after party and whatnot. My friend stayed behind with our class president. I told him I'd pick him up for the dinner and left. When I got back, both were falling down drunk and in tears. A few years earlier, our class prez had lost his father. I take my buddy back to his house so he can get changed for the dinner, and on the way he tells me what happened. They had kept drinking when everyone left and eventually got to the topic of their dads. I had never met my friend's dad. He died and that was all I knew. I never knew how he died. It turns out my buddy's dad was a lawyer or something in the country he's from and was being extorted by a gang. When money started to run out, my buddy's dad sent the family to another country and told them he'd meet them there. That he had to finish some things up. A few weeks after moving, they learned that he had been murdered by the gang. It completely fucked my friend up. We always used to drink heavily and whatever since we were in high school. For me it was just drinking. For my buddy it was numbing the pain. It was fucking shocking when he told me this. And really made me understand him a lot more, why he acted how he acted. My friend's husband told me he was hiding liquor from his wife, my friend. Which was weird. Because they both drink and it's not a big deal. I told my friend what he said. She confronted him and all of his lies started pouring out. Cheating on her with multiple women. Lying about his income. Taking CCs out in her name. Racking up tens of thousands of dollars on them. Stealing from their kids' college funds. They are now divorced. That weird little lie he told me while drunk is what started it all.